Hey everybody, Mike Hopkins here, Apostolic Tech Guy. You may have noticed today in the news that a Russian hacker has posted 6.5 million encrypted passwords to a forum, and it's claimed that these are passwords from the social networking site LinkedIn.com. I want to talk a little bit about that situation and also use it as a sort of a platform to talk about broader internet security issues today. I want to explain a little bit about what all this jargon means, and hopefully it'll be interesting and valuable to you. I want to talk about the details of this specific situation, and I want to talk about the risks of this situation and also in general this type of situation. And then I also want to talk to you about what actions you can take specifically for LinkedIn if you happen to have an account there, and also what actions you can take on a broader scale to increase your internet security. So let's talk about the specific details of this situation. And news is still coming in, but as we know right now, that 6.5 million passwords only have been posted by a quote unquote Russian hacker. This may actually just be a hoax. It may not actually be passwords from LinkedIn. They may not have compromised their systems and downloaded the passwords, or it may be the passwords. And it may the hacker may also have access to the usernames. If it's passwords only, we don't really have that much to worry about. If if the passwords are associated with usernames, then there are some concerns, and I'll point out that the passwords are encrypted. And I'll talk about the encryption that's used there and one of the problems and so forth. You may have seen that they use the SHA-1 hashing algorithm. And SHA-1 is a hashing algorithm that was designed and developed by the NSA. So it's a very powerful, strong hashing algorithm. A hashing algorithm isn't the same as an encryption algorithm. A hash is really a one-way mathematical operation that can't be reversed. There's no way really to take a hashed password and sort of reverse engineer it to come up with the clear text password. The way I like to think about a hashing algorithm is I use the analogy of a meat grinder. So if we take a block of meat and we push it in one end of the meat grinder, out the other end we get some ground meat. And that's really what a hashing algorithm does. There's no way we can really take that ground meat and somehow reassemble that block of meat. It's been ground up, and that's the way it is. So the way that we can check a password that's been hashed is we take an example block of meat or the clear text password and we pass it through the exact same grinder, and then we compare the ground meat result. And if they're the same, then we know that the password that was pushed in the front end is the right password. So what does that mean to us? What that means to us is that if I have a table of 6.5 million passwords, I can take a bunch of chunks of meat, and everybody has access to the same grinder. The SHA-1 hashing algorithm is available for everyone, so that's the grinder, as it were. So everybody could take a bunch of passwords and pass them through the grinder and check it against these encrypted passwords to see if there's a match. Now, one of the attacks against an unsalted, and I'll talk about salt in a moment, but one of the attacks against an unsalted hashed password is what's called a rainbow table. And a rainbow table is literally just a huge list of dictionary words with letters and numbers and permutations. So let's say, for example, your password is laptop03. Okay, in this rainbow table, they'll take the clear text laptop, laptop 1, laptop 2, laptop 3, laptop 01, laptop 03, right? And then they'll take each one of those permutations and run it through that grinder, through that hashing algorithm, come up with the hashed representation of that password, and then just compare it, okay, against those hashed passwords. When they find a match, then they just go back and say, oh well, this was laptop 03, and so that's how they can determine what your password was. Now, I'm a little disappointed that they didn't use that. LinkedIn didn't use a salt with their passwords. And what a salt is it's like an additional, if you think about putting salt in with your meat when you go through the meat grinder, it's like an additional bit of information that goes in with it. So everybody has the same meat grinder, but nobody knows what your salt is. So if you put the salt in, it adds complexity. So then that rainbow table would have to be exponentially larger for every possible salt that could go into the meat grinder. So that makes it really impractical to try to use a rainbow table attack against salted passwords. But since these passwords, and again, we're not sure that they're actual passwords from LinkedIn, since these are unsalted, they are vulnerable to a rainbow table attack, and it is possible that a hacker could compromise those passwords. And it's also possible that the hacker does know the usernames, even though those weren't published publicly. So, what does that mean to us? What are the risks? What are the risks involved here? Well, the initial risk, obviously, if somebody compromises your LinkedIn password, is your LinkedIn account could be compromised. So that's the first thing. That's not a huge risk at this point, simply because we know that the passwords have been compromised. So if that's the case, we can mitigate that risk pretty easily. Now here's one of the points that I really wanted to get to with this video today, is that a lot of people, and this is fairly common, people will share passwords across multiple accounts, and that's a really risky situation when you have a compromise such as this LinkedIn one. So let's say, for example, you use the same username and password on LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter. Okay, that means as soon as somebody compromises your LinkedIn username and password, they have access to all three of those. They just have to simply go and try it and see if it works, and boom, they're in. And if you happen to use email with the same password, uh, that's a killer. I'll do another video in a few days about email security, because your email system, if you think about it, is like the Rosetta Stone of your internet security. You've got way too much information in there to allow people in. So I'll do a video about that. But the biggest risk is that you have shared passwords and usernames across multiple websites, and when a hacker compromises one, he has access to many. Okay, so that's the two major risks that we have here with this situation. So what should you do? Knowing this, what should you do? Now, again, we're not 100% sure that it's not a hoax, but at this point, I would say it's very prudent to go change your LinkedIn password today, right now. Go change it. Say, well, I'm going to change my password, and you'll be safe from that standpoint. Make sure it's a strong password, and there's a lot of web resources to help you understand what a strong password is, and maybe I'll do a video about password etiquette and habits. But generally, you want to learn about and develop good password habits. Don't reuse passwords. Change your passwords frequently. There's a lot of things that you should do. If you do happen to have shared passwords across multiple accounts, this may be a good time to begin developing a system where you have different passwords on your different accounts, especially your email and social media accounts, because there's so much information about you in those websites that you should protect them. So I hope this has been helpful. If there's any questions, please feel free to send me an email, mike@lzid.net, and let me know. And if you have any ideas for future videos, I'd love to hear that information as well. So make sure you go change your passwords, and look for a video coming up about email security and also good password habits. Thanks so much. God bless.